Psychopaths by Gen Urobuchi and Minority Report by Philip K. Dick are two very different yet similar works of science fiction. Both seek to comment on systems in place used to punish criminals and what the world might be like if said systems one day became powerful and far-reaching enough to the point of being able to punish criminals before any crime is able to occur. In Psychopaths, the Sybil system passively monitors the health of the citizenry, while in Minority Report, the pre-crime system works with law enforcement to stop criminal actions from ever taking place. Both systems, while clearly unethical by today's standards in a variety of different ways, do indeed work, which poses a complex question about the inefficient system we have today. How many people is our current society willing to let suffer in the name of ethics? In the movie Minority Report, we see clean streets, self-driving cars, and breathtaking cityscapes. In addition to these establishing scenes at the beginning of the movie, we see police quickly and quietly enter a home and subdue a man just before he can murder a woman. Thanks to the pre-crime system, the police are able to apprehend the man before any harm can come to the woman. The system is immediately shown as being clean and efficient, as neither the police, the man, nor the woman are injured in any way during this first scene. The system of punishing criminals is justified by the movie straight away without any room for argument against said system, doing what Robert Beatty from the Ohio Journal of Criminal Law describes as, quote, endorsing one of the hoariest and most questionable tenets of Anglo-American criminal law, the notion that a person can come quite close to committing a crime and yet may escape all criminal liability, even for the crime of attempt, if the target offense goes uncommitted. The opposite is true in Psychopaths, where in Minority Report, the system is, at first, shown to be clean and orderly. In episode 1 of Psychopaths, many flaws of the Sybil system are brought to light. In the episode, members of the Nameless City's law enforcement agency, inspectors who lead a team of enforcers, are tasked with tracking down a man whose mental health has reached a level of instability that has been deemed unacceptable by society. When they find the man and corner him, the artificial intelligence contained in their glowing blue guns known as Dominators conclude that the man is too unstable to live and proceed to physically transform it from paralyzing bullets into what the Dominators refer to as a lethal eliminator. The man is then promptly shot as he cries out and his body explodes in a shower of blood and gore. This horrific scene shows that even if the system is efficient and most likely correct in its assertion that the man was going to commit a violent crime in the future, the sight of him being blown to pieces makes the audience wonder if there could have been another way to stop him without having to kill him. This is what author Carl Silvo refers to as being aware of the role technology plays in the maintenance of social control. In Minority Report, the man with the knife is stopped by police who look very similar to the police we see today, while in Psychopaths, there is only the cold, uncaring judgment of the Dominator, and the brutal way it is used to execute whomever it deems unworthy to live makes the audience question the legitimacy of the system since humans, inherently, cannot relate to technology or artificial intelligence like they can to other humans. These two jumping off points for each work are crucial to both understanding and appreciating the rest of the respective stories. While both works end up reaching the conclusion that their respective systems are in desperate need of reform, Minority Report descends into the depths to reach that conclusion after the opening scene, while Psychopath starts out dark and slowly brings the audience into the light as they learn more about what the Sybil system really is. While the events that take place in the earlier parts of both works may not seem directly applicable to today's society, what is relevant and what do make these kind of stories so compelling is the idea that the systems depicted in Minority Report and Psychopaths could easily, with all or a majority of society pushing for it, could become a reality. In the United States today, we can see on social media how the court of public opinion can often be detrimental to people's lives. If an individual is accused of a serious crime such as rape or murder, it is often that said person's life falls apart before the case ever goes to trial. Even if the case ends in the defendant's favor, in many instances, that person's social standing will never recover. This is disheartening, but it is understandable, as many people are impatient and would therefore most likely enjoy living under a system as efficient as the pre-crime or Sybil system, since the way these systems operate are as fast, if not faster, at judging individuals than the court of public opinion. In the Sybil system's case, it often dispatches of criminals without the public ever knowing to protect everyone's mental health and allow the public to continue living healthy, happy lives. Another reason people today might be in favor of these radically different systems of justice is because of fear. According to the FBI, an estimated 1,197,000 violent crimes occurred nationwide, an increase of 3.9% from the 2014 estimate. When living in a country where every 1 of 300 people are a victim of some type of violent crime per year, it is no wonder that these societies depicted in Minority Report and Psychopaths have switched to a more efficient, yet also unethical system. If violent crime continues to rise as it did in 2014, we may have no choice but to upheave our current justice system and start all over again. Although it is not desirable, we live in an increasingly polarized country, and with such radicalization taking place, such radical ideas may begin to take root and grow at an unstoppable rate one day. One of the ways Psycho-Pass differs from Minority Report and comments on today's society in a more direct way is by introducing the idea of the criminally asymptomatic individuals, people who the Sybil system are unable to judge despite some of them committing horrible atrocities. Shogo Makishima, the main antagonist of Psycho-Pass, uses his mysterious, criminally asymptomatic trait to subvert the system and strike terror into the hearts of the citizens as his psychotic maelstrom of terror threatens to cripple the city and possibly the country altogether. In episode 11, half of the episode is dedicated entirely to the conversation between the main character and Makishima, both of whom are separated by two intersecting bridges. Note that the bridge Makishima is standing on is elevated significantly above the main characters, adding more tension to an already dramatic confrontation. Makishima talks about a variety of things, most of which relate to the concept of free will and how the Sybil system has taken choices away from people. The grievances presented by Makishima in this scene comments on the danger of giving authority, in this case the Sybil system, too much power over one's life, a direct reference to the struggle between small government and big government advocates that takes place all over the world today. In the words of Chitra Shanti, author of The Panoptic Sybil System and the Dystopia in Gen Urobuchi's Psycho-Pass, even if a criminally asymptomatic person is to commit a crime, his or her Psycho-Pass will show a clear color with a low crime coefficient. So when the main character aims her Dominator at Makishima in episode 11 and the trigger locks up, a feature of the Dominator to prevent the abuse of power and protect non-threatening citizens, and refuses to fire. Despite Makishima being the most nefarious criminal in the entire show, it sends a very striking message to both the Sybil system and the audience. It opens the door for people to make connections to how our justice system today is simply unequipped to deal with certain scenarios. For example, there are several instances of people having their charges in court dropped because of a technicality when they otherwise would have been found guilty. This is very similar to how Makishima is unable to be judged by Sybil based on a hole in the system's algorithm, and also accuses both the Sybil system and our own justice system as being inadequate or incomplete in some meaningful way. The third and final way Makishima comments on society, the nature of ethics, and our justice system is in episode 22, the final episode. After sustaining a serious injury from a knife and having his final plan go awry, he has one final internal monologue as he runs through an open field before eventually giving up. Everyone is alone, everyone's empty, we don't really need each other anymore. With so much at our fingertips, one can find a spare for any talent. While this quote is, on the surface, about Makishima and how he feels about the situation, this quote can also be seen as coming from someone who is a victim of a society that is arbitrary and unfair like the Sybil system. It isn't too much of a leap to say that our justice system suffers from similar problems, traumatizing victims who have already suffered enough. Was it wrong what Makishima did? In the eyes of today's law, yes, but it is also true that he was a psychopath, shaped by a flawed system, and proves through his actions that the Sybil system is not sustainable in the long term, just as our justice system and the way we punish criminals will need to evolve as time goes on. Psycho-Pass clearly displays the shortcomings of the Sybil system and how it relates to similar flaws in our justice system. Despite a handful of the show's characters trying to sweep things under the rug, the show is honest about Sybil's failures and asks in return that the audience look at their society and be honest about its failures as well. While Psycho-Pass focuses on the artificial intelligence that controls the justice system and how even a machine built with fairness in mind can become corrupt or unsuitable to operate human society, Minority Report, described best by Cynthia D. Bond from the Cumberland Law Review, fails to condemn the system's representational ideology. Instead, it focuses on the human corruption to which it falls prey. These distinctions, while important, do not ultimately have an impact on how both stories end. While in Minority Report, the story ends up revolving around the idea of removing human corruption from the system, Psycho-Pass concedes the point that many of the minds that make up the system have become corrupt and must be purged in order for the system to work better for everyone. In this way, Psycho-Pass takes a more nuanced approach by saying that the system can take steps to become perfect in a practical sense. Whether this is an agreeable approach or not is up to the individual, keeping in mind that the Sybil system, quote, represents a branch of ethical philosophy known as utilitarianism, which states that an action is ethically correct if it causes more good for society than bad. This quote means that, ultimately, the system will never be able to appease everyone, because there will always be people who are not comfortable living in a utilitarian society, just as there will always be people like Makishima who seek to overthrow the system. Psychopaths and Minority Report are more than just well-crafted visual media. They teach us to intelligently question and analyze societal structures around us, rather than just oppose or support something blindly. In these alternate futures where free will is limited, if not done away with altogether, these robotic, inhuman systems that rule with an icy grip around the throat of humanity reveal the truth about how the price of freedom is worth any cost, even if that cost is a higher rate of crime and a more inefficient way of punishing criminal behavior. When a government or society offers you safety in exchange for your freedoms, think back to all the horrifying scenes from Psychopaths where people's bodies were eviscerated by the dominators, and think twice before giving government or society similar power over your life, as those events may snowball into an unstoppable force from which humanity and free will may never be able to return.